Hello and welcome to Sports Around the World. I am Austin Arome. The headlines: La Liga giants Barcelona risk insolvency, indebted to the tune of $112 million in transfer fees. Reaction trails Frank Lampard's sacks as Thomas Tuchel is set to take over at Stamford Bridge. In the International Olympic Committee, Italy risks IOC sanction over government interference in the nation's Olympic Committee. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, we go into the main stories. Welcome back. La Liga giants Barcelona still owe 19 clubs a whopping £112 million in transfer fees after they released their annual financial reports on Monday. Of the debt, the largest sum they owe is £25 million to Liverpool, as they still have a loan shock to pay of the initial £142 million deal they agreed for Felipe Coutinho 3 years ago, having handed over £105 million upfront to Liverpool for the playmaker. Barca agreed to pay the rest in installments over the following years. While Liverpool have received the majority of this, the financial report released by the club shows the Reds are still waiting for a large chunk of this. With Coutinho's debt, Barcelona still owe Bordeaux £8.8 million for winger Malcolm, Grêmio an additional £7 million for Otomelo, now at Juventus, and £114 million to Ajax for Frankie de Jong. Barcelona's financial problem due to the pandemic have been no secret, which has seen the club slide towards a period of austerity in recent months. Moving on to our next story, Enyimba recorded their first away win in the Nigerian Professional Football League as they defeat Adamawa United 2-1 on Monday. The People's Elephant, who will lock horns with Rivers United in the Confederations Cup tie next month, took the game to their opponents from the first blast of the whistle, shooting into the lead in the 8th minute. Thanks to Anayo Iwola's goal, Imo Obo doubled the lead in the 32nd minute, and the Abbas side held on tenaciously to the lead until the end of the first half. Homers Adamawa United did not, however, go to sleep as they mounted pressure with a view to turning the table. Idris Abubakar successfully converted a penalty in the 62nd minute, thus reducing the lead by half. But Enyimba maintained the tempo to the end of the match to pocket the 3 points at stake. Moving on to our next story, meanwhile, former Super Eagles and Kwara United goalkeeper Dele Ayenoba says he hopes to see more senior and experienced players ply their trade in the Nigerian domestic league. Ayenoba, speaking in a chat with Brila.net, said he hopes to see more of the experienced national team players come to play in the NPFL with a series of improvements seen so far in the league. The former Enyimba shortstopper played for 3 different clubs in Israeli League before making a return to the Nigerian League in 2020. Moving on to our next story, the coronavirus pandemic will cost Europe's 20th richest football club over £1.7 billion by the end of this season. The Dollar Football Money League survey found the clubs have already lost $976 million up to the end of the extended 2019-2020 season. Clubs have suffered considerable losses on both broadcast and matchday revenue. Barcelona generated more money than any other club in Europe, but still had the second largest revenue fall in absolute terms. The Catalan club saw a drop from £741.1 million to £627 million, but remain narrowly ahead of La Liga rivals Real Madrid, whose revenue fell from £667 to £627 million. Bayern Munich with £556.1 million, Manchester United with £509 million, and Liverpool with £489.9 million make up the top 5, with Liverpool moving up from 7th last season replacing Paris Saint-Germain. Man City, Chelsea, Tottenham Hotspur and Juventus make up the remainder of the top 10. 18 of the 20 retained their places from the last year's survey, with Zenit St. Petersburg 15th with a 207.1 million fall. The Eintracht Frankfurt 20th with a 152.6, replacing AS Roma and West Ham United. Let's quickly go on another short break, and when we come back, we have more sports stories for you. Welcome back. It's still sports around the world on Grand Sports Extra. Moving on to our next story, as Nigerians anticipate the calendar for the 2021 domestic basketball season, the NBBF is considering available options. This is in light of the recent successes of the bubble format initiated by the Nigeria National Basketball Association (NBA) as well as FIBA Africa during its last AfroBasket qualifying series in Kigali, Rwanda. The federation reasoned that due to the harsh reality of COVID-19 and the new normal, there is a need to quickly adapt to the situation. The NBBF board is optimistic that the best decision will be taken after due consultation with stakeholders and club owners ahead of the 2021 Women Premier League and the Men's Division 1 and 2 leagues. Still in basketball, in NBA, LeBron James became the oldest LA Lakers player to score 40 points in a game since Kobe Bryant's farewell appearance in 2016, as the Lakers beat the Cleveland Cavaliers 115 to 108 points. The 36-year-old, playing on the eve of the first anniversary of Bryant's death, finished on 46 points. It was his second highest total as a Laker and the most against his first NBA team. He helped the Lakers pull away and claim a 10th win out of the 10th on the road this season. They will play Philadelphia 76ers, Bryant's birthplace, on Wednesday in what will be an emotional occasion. Still on the NBA, the Orlando Magic won for the only the second time in the last 10 games, beating the Charlotte Hornets 117 to 108 points in the first regular season NBA contest in history, with two female officials, Natalie Sago and Jenna Schroeder, who are among the 7 females who have officiated in the NBA this season. Worked with Sean Wright in the game in Florida, Schroeder told the NBA website that it was like her first feminist dream coming true, describing the feeling as awesome. Sago, on her own part, said it was an amazing feeling, stating that she was proud to be part of an organization that promotes people to do the job based on their abilities, not on gender, race, ethnicity, and those type of things. Moving on to our next story, talking boxing, Anthony Joshua heavyweight unification bout with Tyson Fury is edging ever closer as contract talks advance this week. Boxing fans around the world would have been clamoring for the fight for much of the last 12 months, particularly since Fury's demolition of Deontay Wilder last February. And with Alexander Usyk and Bruce Buffer seemingly out of the way for now, talks between Bob Arum, Frank Warren, and Eddie Hearn are set to ramp up this week. The Gypsy King U.S. co-promoter Arum explained to TalkSport yesterday. Let's quickly go on another short break, and when we come back, we have more sports stories. Welcome back. Frank Lampard has reacted to his sacking at Chelsea on Monday, admitting his disappointment at not being given more time. Club owner Roman Abramovich insisted the former midfielder's status at the club was undiminished by the decision, which came after a run of 5 defeats in 8 Premier League games. With Chelsea ninth on the table and 11 points off leaders Manchester United after spending over £220 million in the summer, Abramovich ended Lampard's time as manager midway through a 3-year deal. It is understood that the former PSG boss Thomas Tuchel is set to replace the 42-year-old. Lampard issued a statement via the League Managers Association in which he described managing the club as a huge privilege and honor, thanking the club fans who have largely remained staunchly behind him. Meanwhile, reactions have continued to pour in over the sack of Frank Lampard. Speaking to TalkSport, Harry Redknapp slammed Chelsea for their latest sacking, referencing how other clubs' bosses have survived criticism. It is very disappointing to hear the news this morning, the former manager said. On the back of a good result beating Luton in the FA Cup, I thought they would give him a bit of time. He compared Lampard's situation with that of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer a few months ago when he was under pressure following a string of bad results by Manchester United. Gave him a bit of time and was able to turn things around. Moving on to our next story, Jose Mourinho has described Frank Lampard's sacking as down to the brutality of modern football, saying the Englishman knew it was going to happen at some point. Mourinho, who had 2 spells in charge of Chelsea and won the club's 3 Premier League titles, according to Mourinho, it is brutality of modern football that when you become a manager, you know that sooner or later it is going to happen. Moving on to our next story, Thomas Tuchel has agreed to take over as Chelsea boss and will be in charge for Wednesday's night's game against Wolves. The German boss 47 was sacked by PSG shortly before Christmas and has been linked with the Blues job ever since. But now reports claim Tuchel is on the brink of taking over from Frank Lampard, who was sacked earlier on Monday with the club's 9th in the Premier League. The report states that there were no other candidates for the job, despite Massimiliano Allegri and Julian Nagelsmann being linked. Let's quickly go on another short break, and when we come back, we continue on sports around the world. Welcome back. It's still sports around the world on Grand Sports Extra. Moving over to our next story, boss Eddie Jones says England will be looking to adapt and evolve their game plan during the Six Nations. England enjoyed a fruitful end to 2020, winning both last year's championship and the Autumn Nations Cup. But they really deviated from a pragmatic style, which Jones has attributed to weather conditions and the way the game is refereed. England started the defense of their title against Scotland at Twickenham on 6 February. The Scots are looking for the first victory in London since 1983, but came away with a staggering 38-38 draw on the last visit in 2019. Moving on to our next story, organizers of the Birmingham 2022 Commonwealth Games are hopeful of hosting the first major multi-sports event after the COVID-19 pandemic. Birmingham 2022 chief Ian Reid and Birmingham City Councillor leader Ian Ward were speaking as part of an online forum on the Commonwealth Game. The forum was hosted by Insider Media, an independent B2B magazine event, an online publisher based in the United Kingdom. During the discussion, Ward referenced the speculation surrounding the staging of the Tokyo 2020 Olympics and Paralympic Games as a number of countries, including Japan, experienced a significant rise in COVID-19 cases. During the forum, which focused on the economic impact and legacy of the Commonwealth Games, Ward revealed organizers were hopeful of a £1 billion economic boost as a result of Birmingham 2022. The Games are due to run from July 28 to August 8 in a year where the sporting calendar looks set to be increasingly crowded, with many events pushed back to 2022 after the Olympics were postponed until 2021. Moving on to our next story, International Olympic Committee will reportedly ban the Italian flag an anthem from the Tokyo 2020 if a dispute over government interference in the country's National Olympic Committee is not resolved by Wednesday. According to the Italian newspaper, in La Repubblica, the IOC Executive Board is set to impose a series of measures on the Italian National Committee when it holds its next meeting. CONI, the president Giovanni Malagu, appeared to confirm the country could face IOC sanctions when speaking in front of an Italian Senate today, warning an intervention by the government is needed to stop any decision of the IOC. Malago, an IOC member, has urged Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte to issue an emergency decree to prevent CONI from being sanctioned. The ban on the Italian flag and anthem at Tokyo 2020, effectively consigning the country to the same status at the games as Russia, is among the punishments the IOC could impose on CONI. Moving on to our next story, talking tennis now. Rafael Nadal has appeared to take a dig at Novak Djokovic for his suggestion to change quarantine conditions for players preparing for Australian Open. Djokovic came in for criticism after it was revealed that he made several suggestions to Tennis Australia for substitute players confined to their hotel rooms for 2 weeks, including potentially shortening the isolation period and finding private homes with tennis courts. Nadal and Djokovic are both currently in Adelaide rather than Melbourne, as they are playing an exhibition event ahead of the Australian Open. In an interview with ESPN, Nadal seemed to be referencing Djokovic when he said some need to make public all these things they do for others. For some of us do it in a more private way without having to publicize everything. There have been complaints that Nadal, Djokovic, and the rest of the top players in the world have an unfair advantage as quarantine conditions are different in Adelaide. But world number 2 Nadal, who won the Australian Open in 2009, said he sees things differently. Let's quickly go on another short break, and when we come back, we round up on sports around the world. Welcome back. Emmanuel Dennis has joined Bundesliga club Cologne from Club Brugge on loan for the rest of the season. The Nigerian international is happy to join the club and is looking forward to a successful spell in Germany. Dennis joined Club Brugge from Ukrainian outfit Zoria in 2017, and he has made 116 appearances for the club and scored 29 goals, 13 assists. The winger should be part of the training on Wednesday and will wear the number 43 jersey. Moving on to our next story, Henry Onyekuru linked up with Turkish giant Galatasaray on loan for the third time in his career. Galatasaray confirmed the Nigerian international arrival from Ligue 1 club Monaco on their official website on Monday. The 3-year-old scored 17 goals and recorded 8 assists in 56 appearances during his spell in his previous stint with the club. He won a League Cup double with the club in his first spell. Moving on to our next story, Leicester City manager Rogers says Kelechi Iheanacho has been impactful for the Foxes despite his paltry returns in front of goals. Iheanacho has scored just 3 goals in 19 appearances in all competitions this season. All these 3 goals have been scored in the Europa League, while he has fired blank in 10 Premier League outings. Despite this, Brendan Rodgers posited that Iheanacho has contributed in no small way to Leicester City's impressive performance this campaign. Leicester are currently third on the 38 points and just 2 points behind leader Manchester United in the league table. Moving on to our next story, West Brom manager Sam Allardyce has confirmed that the Baggies are interested in signing free agent Ahmed Musa in the January transfer window. West Bromwich Albion have requested a UK visa for Musa and is expected to arrive in the Midlands this week for a routine medical. With only 15 goals scored in 19 Premier League matches, Allardyce is in the market for a striker and is believed to have turned his attention to Musa, as it would be difficult to sign Crystal Palace, Benteke and Newcastle United and Di Caro in this window. Musa's fitness will be assessed, and if the striker is in good condition, he is expected to put pen to paper on a short-term deal until the end of the 2020-2021 season. Speaking to reporters Monday press ahead of the meeting with Manchester City, Allardyce replied, and when asked about Musa, he is not here yet. He is a person of interest, and when he arrives, will alert everybody and let them know. Musa appeared in 33 matches across all competitions, scoring 5 goals during an 18-month spell with Leicester City before he was sold to Al Nassr after starting at the 2018 World Cup. Let's quickly go on another short break, and when we come back, we'll continue on sports around the world. Welcome back. Arsenal hope to complete the loan signing of attacking midfielder Martin Odegaard from Real Madrid on Tuesday. The 22-year-old Norwegian has struggled to make an impact in Real Madrid managers Zinedine Zidane's squad this season. Real Sociedad, where Odegaard spent last season on loan, and Eredivisie leader Ajax were also keen on signing him. However, has now reached an agreement and he could feature on Saturday's game against Manchester United. Spanish football expert Guillem Blake said Real Madrid blocked him going back to Sociedad as they wanted him to move to the London club. His arrival at Emirates Stadium comes after the departure of playmaker Mesut Ozil to Fenerbahce. Odegaard joined Real Madrid from Sturm Graz in January 2015 and has played 9 times for Real Madrid this season. Moving on to our next story, Derby have paid the first team players their outstanding wages for December. The Championship club are under transfer embargo and could not meet their last salary obligation. They have failed to pay their biggest earner last month, while lower earning players have been paid either 50% or all of their salaries. A delay in the protracted takeover by Sheikh Khalid, the Ventio holders, has meant Derby remain in a difficult financial situation. Moving on to our next story, the chief coach of Bendel Insurance, Baldwin Bazoye, has resigned from his position at the club. The media officer of the Nigerian National League club side, Kehinde Osagede, disclosed this in a statement on Tuesday in Benin. Osagede said that no reason was given for Bazoye's resignation, but the club, however, wished him well in his future endeavor. He particularly commended the input of the ex-Super Eagles winger since the club was rebranded by the state government 4 years ago. The media officer said the club accepted Bazoye's resignations, later dated January 22nd. He also said the club has elevated some of its coaching staff as a result of the resignation, while it is also affected changes in the title of the coach. Moving on to our next story, chess players in Nigeria have questioned the commitment of the current board of the Nigerian Chess Federation ahead of nomination and election of new board members later in the year. With the National Sports Festival set to hold next month, the players expressed their disappointment, alleging that the current board refused to address them on plans for the year. John Akoje said the federation has been ineffective in the past couple of months and they were looking forward to a new administration. But Secretary of the Chess Federation, Dapo Okiele, refuted the claims, adding that the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic affected the plans of the federation. That's the much you can take on sports around the world. I remain Austin Arome till you join us again tomorrow. Good evening.